Hello, this is Photography Gamer. Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I'm going to be looking at the photo mode in Cyberpunk 2077. I'll be breaking down the photo mode functions, and following that, I'll focus on this episode's special topic, making the most of Night City, where I'll demonstrate the use of various types of lighting from neon, muzzle flash, or daylight to illuminate your subject. I'll also give you some tips on using the environment in cities to give texture or atmosphere to the background. Finally, I'll conclude the episode with some questions I've received from the virtual photography community. Okay, so Cyberpunk's photo mode, well, I'd say it's a pretty good mode. There's plenty of functions that we're going to have to go through today. And this is a bit of a bumper episode because I'm using some more examples at the end just to demonstrate some of the features we've got here. Okay, so first I'm going to just go through basic functions. To enter the photo mode, click the L3 and R3 buttons simultaneously. This will freeze the action and you'll be in the photo mode. To move the camera, you can use the left and right sticks. One of them will move the camera, one of them will rotate it. So this is your first point of interaction to frame your subject. If you press L2 and R2, this is craning. Craning lifts the camera or lowers the camera. If you want to get a nice aerial panoramic shot, lift the camera. If you want to get a low street level shot and bring a sort of a different scale to your image, go lower. If you use the D-pad, that will change which option or value you have selected on the menu. If you click R3, that will hide the user interface. So you would do this when you're ready to take your shot, and to take your shot you would press the share button and that will take a screenshot. Then to exit the photo mode you press the circle button. Okay, that's the basic stuff. So next we have tabs. So to switch between the tabs you would press L1 and R1. So there's a number of different tabs, all with different features in, so I'm going to break them down one by one and tell you what they do and give you some tips. Okay, tab 1 is camera. The first option is camera type, so you have drone or FPS. So first person shooter camera, which is the one you're looking at when you freeze the action. Drone is like a conventional photo mode where you can move the camera around as if it was on a drone, so frame it however you please. Then we have presets. Now you have custom and presets. Custom is the one that you've changed, but the presets, I would say they're definitely worth having a look at before you take your photograph, because they show you preset locations where the camera is positioned and they might give you a different perspective on your photograph. So you might not have thought of that angle, but the presets will give you a variety of different perspectives, angles and heights and distances. So I would recommend using that preset feature just to start you off on the photo. Then we have field of view, FOV, and that really is kind of like a zoom, for want of a better term. It's like it's like if you have a lens in a digital SLR, the field of view is like the focal length. So if you change the field of view, it will change the zoom. So I use it usually at the end of the process once I've framed my image roughly. Sometimes you want to cut in a little bit, sometimes you want to zoom out a tiny bit, but you don't want to use the joysticks because they're quite sensitive. So that's good for micro adjustments to the distancing. Then we have rotate. So this really tilts the camera. So tilting is good if you want to change perspective and the dynamism of the image. Tilting is good for action, it's good for movement, it's good for casts, it's shots, it's good for creating also weird and surreal imagery. It's not something I use that much, but it's definitely something that you should consider when there's action in the shot, just to give it a different feeling. Okay, second tab is depth of field. So first option is enabled, so you have on and off. So if it's on, you can select the focal point, focus distance and aperture. If it's off, you can't. So that means everything would be in focus. Then we have auto focus. So this is a simple option if you don't want to faff around isolating your focal point. Also focus will autofocus on your subject, so that's nice and simple option. Then we have a focus distance. So this dictates the point of the focus, like the origin. Where will the focus distance originate from? whether it's close to the camera, whether it's far away from the camera. It's your choice, so decide where you want that distance to be. Then you have aperture, and that goes from 1.2 to 16. They relate to f-stops. Aperture is measured in f-stops, with the lower number being less area in focus and the higher number being more area in focus. So for example, if you focused on your subject and you had 16.0, everything in the entire image would be in focus. If you did the same but with 1.2, your character would just about be in focus and everything else would be blurry. So use it as you see fit depending on your image. Tab 3 is pose. So first we have category. So you have idle and action. Each one represents a different kind of position. Idle is more chilling, action is what it is. So next we have pose. So we have poses for idle and action. So idle poses are quite nice. There's a lot of like lounging around, kind of more quirky, cool stuff. There's lots of options there. So like it depends what you want to do. Like I'd recommend going through idle, seeing what there is. If there's nothing in idle, go to the next one, which is action. Action includes a lot of gunshots, a lot of things like that. And you know, obviously Cyberpunk has a problem with the photo mode, because if you're in the middle of a gunfight shooting your gun and you pause the game, it doesn't actually show you what you're doing. You just stand there like a robot. So they don't actually have your character's motion saved. That's why they have all these poses, so you can actually do a photo properly. Next we have muzzle. So this is if your gun is in the shot and you click it on, the muzzle will flash as if you shot the gun. Now this sometimes looks stupid, sometimes looks good. It's a very interesting way of adding artificial light to your subject, which I'll show you an example of later, but depending on the shot, whether you want it on or off, up to you. Okay, next we have expression. Now most of these don't look very good. You have a few smiling ones and a few like with gritted teeth, which are good for sort of shooting your gun or combat. So there's not that many, but there's enough there to choose from. But generally there's like 2 or 3 I would go for. But some of them, your face just looks like it's going to fall off or something. Then we have look at the camera, on or off. So this is good if you've got a situation and you just want to change where your character is placed. The next few options are good for like placement of your eye line and your body. Looking at the camera on or off, it depends. Do you want an intense portrait looking at the camera, or do you want candid off camera? Use that on or off, you know, see what you prefer. Then we have rotate. Now this rotates your body clockwise or the other way. So this is good just for making micro adjustments to your position in the shot, because you might not necessarily be in the exact right position. So use the rotate to move your body. Also use rotate in relation to the lighting, because obviously lighting in the game world you can't change, but you can rotate your body so you can change how the light impacts your character. Then we have left and right. So this moves your character to the left or the right. So again, it's micro adjustments to your positioning. This is good when you just need to make some small changes because you might not be in the exact right position. Then you have close and far, so it does the same principle as the left and right, except it moves it nearer or further away from the camera. So rotate, left and right, close and far, they're all good as a thing to use in conjunction just to fine tune where you want to be positioned. Finally, there is character visible, so you might just want to do a landscape or a scene shot of the other characters so you can get rid of your character on or off. Tab 4 is effects. So first we have exposure. So exposure is good for brightening certain areas, like lighter areas generally seem to go brighter. There's a lot of dark moments in the game, so use this exposure to bump the brightness up, or if you're in the daylight and you want to create a sort of fake night shot, lower it down. Then you have contrast. Contrast is good for definition because sometimes the images look a little bit washed out, a bit wishy-washy, so raising contrast will make your character more defined. But also contrast can have some weird effects with colours, so bear that in mind. Highlights are the brighter areas, so it's kind of a bit like exposure light. I would use highlights if I just want to brighten up some parts of the image because it focuses on the lighter areas and makes them brighter. Then we have vignettes. Vignette creates a shadowy border on the peripheral of the image, which progressively fades away until you get to the centre where it's clear. Vignettes are really designed to focus your attention on the center of the shot and also to nullify things in the periphery that might be distracting to your to your view. Then we have a chromatic aberration. Now this is like a kind of distorted, weird effect that it's similar to a vignette, except instead of shadows, it has like weird colors, like double vision. It's good for like a disorientated feel, something that feels like it's off kilter. Doesn't really work in a lot of shots, but try it in a couple, you might find it works in action and things like that. Then we have grain, so that adds a sort of a texture to the shot. Now grain, I like using it depending on the shot. Like use it at night to add a bit of definition, use it in dark areas, use it if you want to create a grimy, gritty feel to the shots. But obviously if you're looking for something sleek and smooth and futuristic, grain might not be your cup of tea, but use it appropriately in the right scene and it can really add some nice impact to your image. Finally, we have effect. So this is basically filters. There are a few filters, but I would have liked a few more. It doesn't feel like they've done enough. Like I feel like it's underwhelming because they're quite harsh, the filters, first and foremost. And there is no intensity slider here. So using a filter in this game is kind of hit and miss because once you use it, that's it. You can't strip down the effectiveness of the filter. So they're very blunt and too harsh in my opinion, but they're there. So there's 2 or 3 I use mainly, but most of them, they're a little bit too sort of harsh to be used. Tab 5 is stickers. So we have 5 sticker options. So you can put 5 different stickers on. Now there are loads of stickers, my goodness, so many. And depending on what you want to put in there, whether it's a logo, whether it's some kind of paraphernalia relating to the gangs, various things they've got here, like lots of options. So you can put 5 stickers on. So you can play around with some fun imagery there. Then we have frames. So these are basically borders on the image. Now there's lots of really nice frames and borders here. So, if you wanted to put cinematic borders on it, or you wanted to put color based ones, or like fake CCTV, or like all sorts of stuff. Like they've really done a good job with stickers, frames. And the third option, backgrounds. The reason I like backgrounds in this is because they strip away what's actually there and they put your character in almost like a studio environment with different lighting. So if you wanted to just black background and make a sort of nice intense portrait in a black background, or you want to use the yellow cyberpunk background or various other options, it's a really nice feature because it just gives you something else to play around with. So really good backgrounds, try them out. But this whole tab 5, very good functions. Okay, final tab is load/save. So you can save a preset with the X button, or you can load a preset with the triangle button, and you have slot 1, slot 2 and slot 3. So here I've saved 3 different slots with 3 different presets of my character with framing, composition, toning, editing, etc. So it's as simple as saving them and then just loading each one at a time, seeing what they look like. So if you enjoy black and white photography and you want to just set up a nice preset for yourself to do black and white quickly, you can do that, or whatever you want. So I like this. It's very quick, very easy, and a nice feature. Okay, so those are the options available in the photo mode in Cyberpunk 2077. Good points. I'd say the character movement and position options are great. The borders, backgrounds and stickers are fantastic, and there's also lots of variety of different functions, so you've got plenty to play around with in terms of creating your shot. However, there's no vibrancy or saturation sliders, so you can't alter color intensity. There's no filter intensity, which is disappointing. Also, the filters are very limited. There's no time of day option, which really would have helped, and there's no real advanced color grading options, so they've definitely missed out a lot of really important things there. I mean, in summary, I'd say it's a great photo mode. I enjoy taking pictures, although it was a bit of a stressful situation without the color sliders, without the intensity, without various other options. It makes your job a bit too challenging. Should have been a little bit better. I'm sure they can add them. They're not difficult to add, so hopefully in time they'll add all those different items. But in terms of scoring, I'd give the photo mode in Cyberpunk 2077 9 out of 10. Very good, but definitely room for more features and improvement. And really surprising they didn't put such color sliders, filter sliders and things like that, because that's real basic stuff. Okay, now it's time for this episode's special topic, making the most of Night City. So what does a city offer? Well, cities in general are a fantastic place to do photography, whether that's virtually or in real life. Why? Well, cities are always changing, whether that be the surrounding environment, ambient colors, textures, people, vehicles, or buildings. But it's also the lighting, because as the sun moves, the environment changes atmosphere with different light sources given different environmental effects. The other thing about cities is at night they light up with neon lights, colours and moody atmospheric features, and Night City is absolutely perfect for all those things I just mentioned. So firstly, let's look at neon lights and how you can use those lights to illuminate your subject, but also use the colour of the light to almost split tone the image in the absence of split toning in Cyberpunk. Okay, so here's the first shot. So I'm here on a rooftop with V, and we're looking for some moody blue tinted light to illuminate the character for a sort of character portrait. Now the blue light I'm using is below the character, so to get the best from that light I'm going to lay V down on her side so the light source will have a more flattering impact on the character. So with any light, it's about placing your subject in the right place, rotating them correctly so that the light has the right impact on their features. Here I'm looking for a quarter light, so not front facing, not side profile, somewhere in between, so it lights V almost completely, but we still want a subtle amount of shadow to add a little bit of depth. Okay, so we've got the position now. Now it's just about rotating to find that nice balance. So I think that's the right level of lightness. As you see, the blue tint of the light adds a tone to the shot also, which complements the hair, makeup and the outfit in terms of colour. And that's the shot I ended up with. So it's kind of like nice and like nicely lit from the side. The blue tone, you can see it's blue but not too much. There's dark borders, you've got a little bit of warm light in the background, but you can see how the lighting is quite complementary on the face as well. There's a tiny bit of shadow because the light is low to high, but not because we're laying down, it's less. So it's a good shot for defining the tattoos, the colours of the outfit, the colour of the makeup, the colour of the hair and the colour of the neon light, all working in a kind of synergy. So it's got a nice balance to it, and framing wise we've tried to cut out all of the stuff that was on the rooftop. Can't get rid of everything, but I think that's not a bad option in terms of using the neon light to source, you know, the light on the face, the light on the body, and also the colour toning. Okay, so next we're going to shoot an indoor location with a moody neon lit temperature, but we're going to use the muzzle flash on the gun to brighten up the subject. Okay, so we're in a nightclub, which is a great location for these types of shots as it's all neon lights and decadent features. So we'll use the curtain and place V to one side. This will give us some space to add the firearm into the shot, which in turn will add the flashbulb effect to the shot when we add the muzzle effect. Once I edit the levels and filters, I added the muzzle flash, and you can see straight away it lights up the character and makes her stand out a lot from that dark background, and also the light impacts those kind of curtains. So then it was just a case of kind of tweaking a few details, color toning, contrast, highlighting, exposure, and then just getting the composition and the framing just about right. Subject to one side, leave the other side empty so you've got place for the gun and the muzzle flash, and then the curtain and the ambient temperature of the light adds a nice kind of atmosphere to it with a little bit of filtering. Really bright light on the face. You see the light there? That's like a big like photo shoot flash bulb illuminating the subject. So it's a very clean and clear facial shot of the character, but it's also got a nice dynamism with the gun and all that stuff. Okay, two more shots to show you, and I'll use a different V for this one. So we're looking to use the daytime urban environment to stage some firearm shots, so showcasing the guns, the city, and making the character appear to be in the midst of a conflict. So here we are in a pretty generic street location. Firstly, there's lots of busy features, so we'll probably drop down the camera to a low level. This makes the character seem taller also, more powerful, you know, and that suits the gun being fired and all that kind of stuff. I'd also recommend changing the facial expressions too, as it complements that action feel, so gritted teeth, muzzle flash, all that kind of stuff. Add a few filters, add some grain, bump up the contrast, and that's really what I ended up with. It's kind of it's a fairly basic shot. You've got some like nice colours and textures in the background, bit of sunlight on the body, low to high, gritted teeth, muzzle flash, kind of intense, but you know, not a very difficult shot to do, but that's just like principle of getting a good action shot, daylight, muzzle flash, bit of environment, bit of urban environments. Okay, one more shot. Let's go to a hilly area and place our character at the tip of the hill and use the descending streets as a backdrop. I've chosen this area as it works well with the skin tone and colour of the outfit. I've placed the subject to the side and I've also blurred the background a little bit as it's very busy, so I didn't want to distract too much from the subject. So a bit of chromatic aberration on the borders to give it kind of disorientation action, gunfire, muzzle, hazy borders. Frame it so we've got a nice descending line down the hill so it gives a sense of scale of the city. Rotate the character so that you get a nice bit of sunlight on the side. I could have rotated the character the other way, but I felt the lighting worked best there. So that's the shot I ended up with. So it's very colourful environments, like the trouser, like the animal print on the trousers and the orange on the buildings blends the skin tone, and the sort of the other colours on the buildings has a nice synergy. Gas mask, it's kind of looks like a hot day, looks like it's fiery, so like no top for the character, big gun, gas mask, flash, blurred background, chromatic aberration, all those things together have kind of made a sort of nice little city-based action shot with a nice sort of landscape feel to it, sort of. Okay, so there were a few examples of how you can use Night City to add various qualities to your shot. Now we're going to wrap up the episode with a few cyberpunk related questions from the virtual photography community. Okay, first question, any tips for taking action shots in Cyberpunk? Well, I've kind of just got into it. Use the muzzle flash if you're going to use guns, gritted teeth, maybe tilt the image to give it a sense of motion, use the chromatic aberration. Anything that gives it a sense of like impact. You want griminess, you want grittiness, you want action, you want combat, you want like something to add a ferocious quality. Think about where you're going to take the shot. Think about what your character is going to be wearing. Think about all those sorts of things because they all do help an action shot. One problem with action shots in Cyberpunk is that it doesn't have true photo mode freezing because you don't ever see your character, and when you pause the game you don't actually stand in the position you were standing. It just has poses as we went into earlier in the video. So you've got to be creative with the poses because you're limited in that regard. So you've just got to use the features to try and give it some sort of energy. Next question, I want to photograph my character's tattoos and make them stand out. How can I do that? Well, a good way would be use the black background. So go to backgrounds, put the black background up, have an outfit that shows off the tattoo. So depending on your character, depending on the outfit, choose something that shows off what your tattoos look like. Then the black background is a good way of doing that. Or a dark area in the game world, depending, something depends on the skin tone as well. If you've got very pale skin, tattoos stand out more. If you've got darker skin, they don't stand out as much. So then you might have to mix highlights, put the highlights up, put the saturation up, maybe add some grain to add some more definition to it and be in a lighter position. Because if you're in a dark area, if you've got dark skin tone, dark tattoos, dark environment, you can see how that's going to be hard to define and bring the sort of definition out. Think about all those features when you're doing it in order to bring out the best in them. Okay, final question. I want to take beauty shots with V, but not sure where to do it, what features to use or outfits and stuff. Help me, please. Okay, beauty shots. Well, I guess the best places I would say are the nightclubs or the bars because they've got the most decadent arrangement of furniture, decadent lighting, neon colors. They're dark, they're moody, they're very glamorous. So those locations I would say for beauty shots are probably better. Also, you've got to think about your outfit, you've got to think about accessories, you've got to think about how the lighting in the environment is impacting your character's features, because beauty shots are all about being flattering. They're not necessarily about atmosphere, they're more about sort of emphasizing some sort of quality of the character. So you probably want brighter areas. So you could also use daylight, but daylight light is quite flat. So neon lights are good for beauty shots because it's kind of moody, but not too moody, and it gives a nice sense of color toning. So nightclubs, decadent areas, things like that. Outfits, use an outfit that suits what do you want the character to look like. Pick a nice outfit, try some shots. It might not work. Mix up, maybe try sunglasses, try a different hat. Try a different sort of upper body costume. Take pictures with other characters, different locations, different lighting, different textures in the background. There's lots of things you can do. Like the first shot we did with the neon lights, that was it was shot in a like very gritty urban environment, but it was a good beauty shot because it showed the character's facial features and the kind of physique and the tattoos and all that, and it was kind of a nice shot to emphasize the character. It wasn't a classic location, it was just for demonstration purposes, but you can find places that look a lot nicer than that. For example, here's a shot I took in one of the back rooms in one of the nightclubs. So this is like almost like a boudoir shot with the character kind of sprawled out on one of the dressing tables with the mirrors, with all of the bric-a-brac in the environment, with a nice leading kind of image towards it, like a behind the scenes feel. So like think places like that, look around and see what you can do, and just think about how it's going to affect the image. Now, it's always going to work, but try different things and you'll be surprised what you can achieve. Okay, we are done. Phew, that was a long one today, but it's a very big photo mode, and I wanted to make a special edition for this virtual photographer's guide to really cover it in a way that I felt was appropriate. So I hope you found the breakdown useful. I hope you found the special topic helpful as well. Feedback is always welcome. I hope you've enjoyed it. Use the tips as you see fit and keep taking pictures and enjoying it first and foremost. Do it for you, do it because you enjoy it. Anyway, thanks for watching again. I'll be back with another one soon. I'm not sure what's next, maybe some Miles Morales perhaps. But for now, this is Photography Gamer signing off. Thank you.